Hello and welcome to Calls. This is the 2022 BMW Championship Data Dive show. The first news or first announcement I have to make, big news. Cam Smith has withdrawn from the tournament amid rumors of him going to live and such. He notes a lingering hip issue as the reason for the withdrawal. So whatever you think about Liv and the rumors and all that, Cam Smith is not in the field for the BMW this week, making the field 68 players. Tommy Fleetwood has confirmed not playing. So we're at 68 players. Important to note that it's a no-cut event, so a lot like a WGC in that regard. So there is a lot to unpack there, but wanted to make sure I gave you that news if you have not seen it. Cam Smith is out of the tournament this week. But we are here to dig into all of the data for the players that are here, as well as the course. We covered a little bit of that last night, but there is still more that we can glean. So let's get our math nerd on. All statistics provided tonight and every night are from FantasyNational.com. It is simply the best tool out there. It's going to make you a much better gambler and a much smarter DFS player. Go check them out. It's well worth your investment. In the description, there are links to all of my social media, Instagram, Twitter, Discord server, Twitch, which I am streaming every day. If you watch today, you would know that I covered the St. Jude. I went back and looked at my data model to see what I got right and wrong. Looked forward to some research tonight. Even did a little bit DFS baseball. I was given a free ticket in DraftKings, so did a little bit of DFS baseball as well. So a lot going on. It's a variety of things over on Twitch. And then finally, we're live. Chat is open. Want to hear from you all. What are you all thinking about for Wilmington Country Club in Delaware? What kind of players do you think will succeed? We're here at Wilmington Country Club. It is a long course. We covered this last night in the initial research. It is 75-34, so 7,534 yards on the scorecard. Par 71. The length of the course comes in the par fives. Mainly, you have a 582 yard par five, and then a 632 and a 649. So very, very long course. And there's a couple of long par threes as well. 234 yards, 205 and 6, I think. But the par fours are rather short. There are no par fours that measure above 500 yards. A couple of par fours that measure close to 500, about 495 and a 490. But there are a lot of par fours here that are 400 to 450 yards. So even though the course is long, you're not going to get a whole lot of 200 plus approach shots, I don't think. Because the par fives are true three shotters. Again, 649 yards, 632. And you also have the 580 that if it were straight down, no dog leg or anything, might be reachable. But it's a very severe dog leg. So I have my suspicions that it is going to play as a true three-shot par five as well. So when you take out the going for the par fives and two and leave those three holes with wedges, then you're left with a bunch of par fours between 400 and 450 that don't require a long approach shot. And another distinct factor of Wilmington Country Club are the greens are massive. I mean massive. 8,100 square feet, the average green size here in Wilmington. The average tour green is 6,000 square feet. So more than 2,000 square feet more or bigger here at Wilmington than the average tour green. So greens and regulation probably aren't going to be the thing that we want to look at, considering a green means a whole lot less here. So let's get into it. Let's do a little bit of recap from last night. We looked at long courses to start with, because we know this is going to play very, very long, 7,500 yards. There have been no long courses in the last 3 months, so I'm going to bring this back to January 1st, the beginning of the calendar year. And not a whole lot of rounds, but nothing we can really do about it. I don't want to go back too far, and going to the start of the PGA Tour season doesn't add any rounds. Now, the BMW has been loaded. I went ahead and brought up the DraftKings page. I'm not going to fight it. I will try to be as neutral as I can without looking at the salary. But if you want to do a quick DFS, DFS take on a player, by all means jump in chat, especially put it in the comments, but I'm more focused on the data as opposed to the price tonight. But anyway, so we looked at long courses. We have the BMW loaded in Fantasy National, so I don't have to count how many players I've listed off. So since the start of the calendar year, your best performers on long courses are Scotty Scheffler, John Rahm, Will Zalatoris, Sungjae, Rory, Colin Morikawa, Corey Connors, Shane Lowry, Chris Kirk, and Justin Thomas. Oh, goodness. Fitzpatrick and Kuchar all tied for 10th, essentially, because Cam Smith has withdrawn. So there are your top performers when a course is long. Again, do take a little bit of grain of salt with it. Like Colin Morikawa, only 8 rounds. Shane Lowry only has 4. I imagine it's the Masters. Yeah. So not a lot of rounds here. Like Siwoo was the most at 19. He had the Century, which isn't a great course to really compare against anything. It's so unique. Farmers, API, Valero, and Masters. And just to prove my point a little bit more, we'll go back to the start of the PGA Tour season, and there's not anything more to add. Still 19 from Siwoo. So we're just going to keep it at calendar year 2022 for the long courses. We're definitely going to look at some more long course metrics, say proximity, fairways. I mentioned proximity. Like, there's just got a lot of things that we're going to want to look at when a course is long. I did take a casual look at Windfinder today. It does not appear to be a lot of wind for the BMW this week. So we're going to eschew that, and of course I'll keep an eye on it tomorrow into Wednesday for the DFS Tactics show. But we're going to bring this back into the last 3 months. And the one I said last 3 months, I want to see how players do when there's no cut. Sometimes players just play differently when they know they are guaranteed 4 rounds. So we'll go into the last 6 months. I doubt there's going to be many. Yeah. Let's go last calendar year. So 16 from Xander. What do these include? Last year's BMW, the Tour, CJ Cup in the fall, and the Zozo. I don't think 8 rounds is going to be enough. And I don't want to go back too far, but let's go to 1/1/2021, not the full PGA Tour season of 2020, or 2021, excuse me, but enough. Yeah, 24 rounds from Xander. Yeah, Tournament of Champions, WGC, Mexico, BMW, and then going on. So I think this will be a good indicator. It's just to give you an idea of the players who play well in these no-cut events, because it could surprise you. So, and you'll see. So since the start of 2021, 01/01/2021, your top performers In no-cut events are Rory, Patrick Cantley, Justin Thomas, John Rahm, Brendan Steele, Victor Hovland, Sung Jae, Matt Fitzpatrick, Colin Morikawa, and K.H. Lee. Now, Brendan Steele's a little surprising. However, I'd be willing to bet these are from the Zozo. Yep. He played well at the Zozo. What did he finish? Tied a runner-up to Hideki last year. So his statistics are probably getting a little bit skewed. Just like Joo Hyun Kim's are still, but especially last week. Fitzpatrick's only got 4 rounds. WGC Mexico last year. So again, I don't want to put a whole lot of stock into it, but it is worth looking at to see who plays these no-cut events well, who generally plays in them, because there is a bit of different take to it when guys know that they have 4 rounds, that a double, maybe even a triple bogey won't take them out of the tournament. They can go flag hunting some more. So we're gonna definitely be looking at proximity. We're definitely going to be looking at birdies. Who's just not afraid to go low. But I did want to see who played no-cut events often and well, because this is a no-cut event. So there is that. I know we didn't cover that last night. I'm going to bring this back to January 1st, 2022. I still have the no-cut filter on. So this is a Robert Trent Jones design, not anything we can take into effect directly in terms of architect. But I mentioned last night, and let me grab my note card here, I did do a little bit of research over the weekend on what some of these other RTJ courses are that have been played on the PGA Tour. There are none currently being used. The most notable, Baltusrol and Belle Reve were the host of the 2016 and 2018 PGA Championship, respectively. Hazeltine, which hosted the 2018 Ryder Cup. Then you had Firestone, which is the WGC Bridgestone, what turned into WGC Mexico. You do have, I take that back, there is one course that is being used on the PGA Tour right now. It's the Bermuda Championship, Port Royal. So I don't know how much we want to factor that in or look at, but that is a Robert Trent Jones design if you are so inclined to look at some Bermuda Championship metrics and whatnot. You have the Quicken Loans National was played at Congressional, and then the Barbasol used to be at RTJ Grand National in Alabama before it moved to Kentucky and Keene Trace. So there are a few courses that have been played on the PGA Tour that are Robert Trent Jones designs. Let's see, what's the next thing I want to do here? We definitely know that the rough is long. Very, very long rough. So I'm going to set this back to the past 3 months, and I want to get a feel for what tournaments have been lately, because there's been quite a few. So the PGA makes a whole lot of sense. Charles Schwab, the Memorial, makes a lot of sense. Now, recently, the 3M, the Rocket Mortgage, and even the John Deere was classified as long rough. It's very interesting. And the reason we know it's going to be long rough is think about the U.S. Open, Brookline. If you are off the fairway, the rough is just fescue and just gnarly shit. That is what it's here at Wilmington Country Club. It's listed on the GCSA tournament fact sheet as 4 inches long. So very long rough. I believe that's what the Memorial is listed, and that's very well known for deep, thick rough to play out of. So your top performers in long rough in the past 3 months, and this is going to be the majority, or the filter that I use the majority of the time tonight. And that's what I did last week for the St. Jude. I mean, these guys have made it to the BMW for a reason. They've been playing on the PGA Tour, so there are going to be enough rounds recently. But your top performers in rounds with long rough in the past 3 months, you've got Tony Finau, Rory, Justin Thomas, Xander, Will Zalatoris, Sam Burns, JT Poston, Sungjae, Taylor Pendrith, and Max Homa. Okay, so probably no surprise here. Surprising to see JT only has 8 rounds, and they were quite far back actually. PGA and the Canadian. I will bring up the St. Jude in case we want to look at it. I'm not sure we're going to want to, but just as a casual look, the scoring was pretty average except for round 1. Hitting fairways, average, rough length, average. Greens were fast, but they were on Bermuda. Anyway, so speaking of greens, we know we're on bent, and the stimp listed on the GCSA tournament fact sheet was fast at 12.5. That's approaching lightning territory, or at least I would think it's approaching lightning territory. And there are a few rounds for fast and lightning bent, but I'm going to go back and see how much fast and bent there are to the beginning of the calendar year. There's a few rounds added, a few. Just out of curiosity, I'll go back to the start of the PGA Tour season and see if we get more rounds. I doubt we do. No, not really. So let's bring it into the beginning of the calendar year, just like we did for long courses. So since the start of the calendar year, your best putters on fast and lightning bent greens. Those players are Christian Bezadenhout, Denny McCarthy, Keegan Bradley, Max Homa, Victor Hovland, Tony Finau, Patrick Cantlay, Wyndham Clark, Maverick McNeely, and Sam Burns. A couple of surprising names, maybe Keegan, although remember he finished second. I believe it was at the Wells Fargo, and he put the daylights out in that tournament. The Memorial was okay because he's generally not a good putter. Keegan, he's not known for his putting, but he was very good in that stretch there. Sam Burns, generally known for Bermuda putting, but has been good on bent as well. I meant to, well, that was fine, but I also meant to click on here to see. So like the Byron Nelson, he missed the cut, but you know, it was pretty close to field average. But look at the, oh, I'm sorry, that's the total. Like, look at the last 5 rounds on Fast and Lightning Bermuda. It's just very good. I mean, even the last 7 rounds. I mean, he was slightly negative to Charles Schwab, but he's been putting very, very well. Been putting very, very well, no matter what surface. Tony Finau, never known for putting, but he's hot right now. He's just hot. Rocket Mortgage, 3M, RBC Canadian, Charles Schwab, all of these positives. He's not known for putting by any means, but just hot with a flat stick. So there's a look at your top Fast and Lightning bent green putters. I am a little curious, so I'm going to keep the 1/122 filter on. I'm a little curious to see strokes gain approach when it's long. And that, you can think about maybe the 200 procs and all that stuff, but this course doesn't really seem like it'll have a bunch of 200 plus approach shots. The par 5s are all 3-shotters, at least in my estimation they're 3-shotters. And then the par 4s here at Wilmington Country Club, there are only 2 massively long ones at 490, 495. Majority of them are 400 to 450, and those aren't going to require a 200 plus yard approach shot. So I do want to see, again, just a rough view, your top performers in strokes gained approach when a course is long since the start of the calendar year. Those players are Scotty Scheffler, John Rahm, Will Zalatoris, Victor Hovland, Hideki, Adam Hadwin, Luke List, Joaquin Niemann, Corey Connors, and Keegan Bradley. All right. Again, just kind of to be expected. Best players in the world generally are here at the BMW and next week at the East Lake. Surprising to see Christian Bezuidenhout up here close to the top 10 when it's long. He's generally not a fan of long courses. But the Masters, he played all 4 rounds, so he made the cut. We don't have that data, but really only had 1 round that was negative. So, okay. All right, Seabez. Okay, so I think that's probably going to do it for the kind of umbrella stat page overview. I don't want to take a guess at whether this is going to be easy or difficult. My guess, it would be a pure guess, is that it will be difficult. But I really don't know. I really don't know. And the reason I say it would be difficult, more difficult than easy, is that there aren't going to be a lot of equal chances, I don't think. Like I said, the par 5s, I think, are all going to be true 3-shot par 5s. So I just don't see an eagle opportunity much on the course. I just don't. All right, so that's going to do it for that tab. Let's move to birdies and bogeys. And like I said, I don't think there's going to be many eagles, but with a no-cut event, I do want to see who goes out and gets birdies. They just aren't afraid. They go attack pins, knowing that a bogey, a double bogey, won't cause them to miss the cut. So they just go out and attack. And I'm going to go ahead and put the long course filter back on. And we're at 1-1-22. So your top players at gaining birdies on long courses since the start of the calendar year. Those players are Scotty Scheffler, Will Zalatoris, J.J. Spawn, Russell Henley, Adam Hadwin, JT, John Rahm, Keegan Bradley, Matt Kuchar, and Colin Morikawa. Again, Cameron Smith has withdrawn. J.J. Spawn's very interesting. I think this is probably coming from the Valero where he won. Absolutely. He played the API great. Played the Farmers well. So he has traditionally done well on long courses. I say traditionally, at least this season has done very well on long courses. Okay. Let's see. Adam Hadwin. He's only got 5 rounds, so I would take that a bit with a grain of salt. Again, only the Farmers where he missed the cut, but then gained a lot of birdies at the Valero. Okay. That makes sense. Kuchar, only 4 rounds. So, again, not a lot of rounds to dissect, but better than nothing. Better than nothing. Let's see. In the spirit of that, let's see who gives themselves the most opportunities on long courses. So your most or your best players are giving themselves opportunities when it's long since the start of the calendar year. Will Zalatoris, Cam Young, John Rahm, Victor Hovland, Joaquin Niemann, Justin Thomas, Aaron Wise, Colin Morikawa, Chris Kirk, Patrick Hanley, Sam Burns, and Max Homa. We talk about pretty consistently players that give themselves opportunities and don't convert. For example, if we go to the St. Jude last week and there isn't a way to see opportunities per se, we can definitely look at birdies versus bogeys and all that, but we can actually look at just birdies or better actual. And if we sort on that, like Will Zalatoris was tied for 3rd in that category, but Lucas Glover actually had the most birdies or better. Then Colin Morikawa, Sepp Straka, Adam Scott, Leishman, so on and so forth. If you combine the birdies or better actuals with something like proximity or greens in regulation, that'll give you a decent idea of who gave themselves opportunities and then who converted. It's crude, it's rough, but you can certainly do it. And if you look at proximity from last week, like Sepp Straka was very good, Lucas Glover was very good, Adam Scott was very good. Again, Straka, Lucas Glover, these guys were up at the top of the birdies or better gained leaderboard as well. So makes some sense. Also could look at greens gained, greens in regulation. Again, Sepp Straka. Lucas Glover didn't actually gain a whole lot of greens. It was all in fairways for him. Brian Harmon, greens. John Rahm, a whole lot of greens. He apparently didn't putt, which has been John Rahm's MO lately. Yeah, I mean, field average, but so anyway, I always prefer the player like Aaron Wise. He's given himself plenty of opportunities. He just hasn't converted. So, unless he's a historically bad putter, which he can be, or at least he's been negative in his career. But you look here, like he's starting to convert a lot. Now the U.S. Open, he did make the cut. The Open, he made the cut, so you can't imagine those would be too far negative. Wyndham, top 15. St. Jude last week, he missed. I mean, he lost 1.5 strokes and still finished with a middling finish. I'll say top 30. So this is why I much prefer this kind of player, especially when he shows that he can spike 5, 4.5. Now you can lose 5, sure. But Aaron Wise is different than, say, somebody like Luke List here, who is just a bad putter. I mean, just a bad putter. He spiked one time and won the Farmers, but historically speaking, I mean, he's just bad. So his birdies, or lack of birdies per se, where'd he go? There he is explained in that regard, that he's a bad putter. Hideki, the same. The inverse of that is, say, Denny McCarthy. There he is. So he has not been giving himself a lot of opportunities when the course is long. He's not giving himself a lot of opportunities. He's also not been converting a lot of birdies. That's Mac Hughes. Gosh dang it. Still not converting birdies and not giving himself a lot of opportunities. McCarthy is the inverse in the sense that he is a world-class putter. So I much more trust the fact that if he is converting without giving himself a lot of opportunities because he's a great putter. Like Sung Jae has been converting a lot of birdies but not giving himself a lot of opportunities. So birdies, like the Century, he was technically negative for that tournament. The Farmers was okay for birdies, but like the Masters, Arnold Palmer was okay. Like, if he's not giving himself opportunities, he's not going to be shooting these low scores. I don't know. I'm a little worried on Sung Jae in that regard. He's been playing fantastic, so by no means am I fading him. It's just a little worrying in that regard. So I much prefer the players, like I said, like Aaron Wise, like a Patrick Cantlay, a Sam Burns, even Max Homa. These guys that we know can give themselves plenty of opportunities. They just haven't made the putts. And we talked about Sam Burns. He's a good putter. Max Homa, a good putter. He won the Wells Fargo on bent. Patrick Cantlay, a good putter, or a good enough putter, I should say. And bent's his preferred surface. So these are the kind of players that I would be targeting. And then otherwise, I mentioned Sung Jae. Somebody like Scott Stallings could be wearisome. Alex Noren, although Noren putts bent fantastically, so he might fall in the Denny McCarthy category for bent specifically because he loves bent greens. And he's generally just a good putter. Wyndham Clark, somebody to be perhaps a little wary about. Kevin Kisner. So there is a look at the players that are very good and poor at opportunities and birdies. Again, we're focusing birdies because it's a no-cut event. So in fact, let's actually do that. Instead of adding a course length, I want to take that one away. Let's do a no-cut and see what happens here. Let's go to 1-1-21 like we did for the strokes gained total. So your top birdies gained players since the start of 2021 in no-cut events. Your top birdies gained players: Patrick Cantlay, Rory, JT, John Rahm, Scotty Scheffler, Colin Morikawa, Luke List, Sam Burns, and Sung Jae. Okay, so Sung Jae's again gaining quite a bit of birdies, but not as many opportunities. Your number one player here, Cantlay, has been converting but not giving himself a lot of opportunities. Let's see what this is about. So the TOC, apparently he was just putting the daylights out. BMW last year he won, so that explains that one quite a bit. Tour Championship last year, okay. So the hot BMW putting week, I mean, he came 14 and a half. That tells you everything you need to know about why Patrick Cantlay won the BMW last year. So perhaps be a little wary in terms of Patrick Cantlay, specifically in that regard with no-cut events. Is this too narrow? Probably. But with a lack of data, Wilmington Country Club's never been played on the PGA Tour. With only now 68 golfers, we're going to get as much data, look at as much data as we can to try and find an advantage. So there's a look at your top birdies gained players. If we go by opportunities in no-cut events, Rory, Colin Morikawa, Harold Varner jumps up in opportunities. Justin Thomas, Russell Henley, Joaquin Niemann, Lucas Glover, Emiliano Grillo, Scotty Scheffler, Terrell Hatton, and Xander. I am very curious on HV3. So last year's BMW, pretty good in the birdies. Opportunities, he had quite a few in the first two rounds. And then the CJ Cup from this fall was pretty darn good in opportunities. Decent enough in converting. Okay. Just it's kind of weird to see that, but there it is. So players here, like Russell Henley, I'd be kind of excited to think about. Lots of opportunities, not converting. Grillo, although Grillo falls into that Luke List category, he just can't putt. So he might be one to ignore in that regard. Bezaden, who's actually a good putter, he only has 4 rounds though. WGC Mexico, so he did not gain a lot of birdies and gave himself quite a few opportunities. It's one tournament. Everybody has a bad tournament, so I don't know how much you'd want to put stock into that. All right. So, again, am I going to use no-cut event stuff? Probably not, but it is worth looking at since it brings a little bit of a different strategy into it. Let's rein this data back in and go with last 3 months, just who's hot with opportunities and birdies. No filters, no anything, just flat out opportunities and birdies. So I'm going to sort on opportunities. The players that have been giving themselves the most opportunities in the past 3 months: Will Zalatoris, Mito, Russell Henley, Davis Riley, Cam Davis, Justin Thomas, Patrick Cantlay, Rory, Lucas Glover, and Tony Finau. Surprising to see Tony Finau 10th. I would have figured it would have been a lot higher, but he is 3rd in birdies, so that tells you everything you need to know about that with his putter, which we have seen. He's also 1st in bogeys avoided. So a fairly good combination there when you're 3rd in birdies and 1st in avoiding bogeys. Like Rory, 1st in birdies, 2nd in avoiding bogeys. He just had a bad week last week, apparently. Cantlay, Thomas. So again, like Russell Henley, somebody to probably think about. Opportunities, but not converting. You see there, he's not even a bad putter. Bermuda is great. Now, bent, he's essentially field average, right on field average. But he's been bad with the putter lately. But, is this a new Russell Henley? Maybe. And then we'll need to reassess where or how we feel about Russell Henley. But, it wasn't too long ago, like early this year, he was okay with the putter. I think he should have won the Sony. Hideki just came roaring back. Now, he was bad in the fall. So, I don't know. This is Bermuda. That's Bermuda. That's POA. So, his bent performance hasn't been necessarily the strongest. So, I don't know. Maybe Russell Henley is a little worrisome in that he's not a good bent grass putter. But over his career, he's been, field average. So, apologies. Let me fix chat here real quick. Okay. So there's a look at opportunities, just straight up opportunities. If we sort on birdies, Rory, Will Zalatoris, Tony Finau, Xander, Patrick Cantlay, Mito, Sam Burns, Fitzpatrick, Spieth, and Cam Davis. So, Sam Burns is interesting because he's generally a good putter, but he hasn't been giving himself a lot of opportunities. Mito is interesting. He's been giving himself a lot of opportunities. Been converting it's 6th, but again, 6th out of 68 is not as high as, obviously, 6th out of 152 or whatever. And interesting, but he has given himself a ton of opportunities. Xander actually hasn't been giving himself a lot of opportunities, but he's converting them when he gets them. Interesting. Like I said, so I always enjoy looking at this page, the Birdies and Bogeys view in Fantasy National. It's just interesting to see. I just don't think there are going to be any eagles to gain here this week. These par 5s are true 3-shotters. And I don't want to do anything with easy or difficult. I would think it'd be difficult, but really don't know. Let's take a look at fairways and greens. We took a little bit of this last night. And when we walked through the course, and if you don't know anything about Wilmington Country Club, I went through hole by hole on Pro Visualizer last night in the initial research. So I encourage you to go check that show out video after watching this. But to me, I think it's going to be mostly fairways gained. That's not necessarily forced layups. There are a few, but it's just the course is long. The rough is long. You've got to avoid hitting or driving into bunkers and all this. It just seems like there's a premium on fairways for this course. So with that in mind, with no filters, your top just fairways gained players in the last 3 months: Joo Hyun Kim, Ches Reavie, Troy Merritt, Corey Connors, Russell Henley, Andrew Putnam, Lucas Glover, Sungjae, Chris Kirk, and Siwoo. And you'll see all 10 of those are absolutely at the bottom of the field in terms of distance. You'll have to come to Keith Mitchell, who's pretty darn good, 14th in fairways and 4th in distance. It's pretty darn strong. But what we looked at last night, we'll cover it again. Let's do long rough here. I have to bring this out again to let's try 6 months, see what that does. Oh yeah, plenty. 35 rounds, look at that. Plenty. So your top fairways gained players when there's long rough, knowing that you have to stay in the fairway if you want to avoid scrambling. Those players are Ches Reavie, Andrew Putnam, Chris Kirk, Joo Hyun Kim, Emiliano Grillo, Troy Merritt, Brian Harman, Corey Connors, Mito, Lucas Glover, and Russell Henley. So a whole lot of overlap here. However, you got Mito that rises in terms of gaining fairways when there's long rough. Griot. Let's see. Just outside the top 10 was Matt Fitzpatrick, who's actually gaining distance as well. Interesting. Steele, Finau, close to the top 10 in fairways. They are in the top 15 and very good in distance. All right. And again, this is in long rough, so accurate drivers can still hit it far or far enough. So I'd be interested in these guys. I'm especially interested in Mito. It's very interesting. 9th in fairways, 30th in driving distance. And he was there for regular. He's been there with opportunities as well. Okay. I don't think greens is going to be worth looking at all. And that's why I don't want to look at good drives. These greens are massive. So just because you hit a green in regulation, it's almost like playing at St. Andrews and all those double greens. You may hit a green and be 30 yards away. Not an exaggeration. I don't think you'll be that far away here, but I mean, these are 2,000 square feet larger on average than the average tour green. These are massive greens. So I don't think greens are going to be that big of a deal. So I'm focusing all on fairways. I could perhaps see some scrambling. So we'll take a look at two different things, scrambling in long rough and scrambling on long courses. So your top scramblers in the past 6 months, when the rough is long, those players are Matt Fitzpatrick, Cameron Young, Denny McCarthy, Lucas Herbert, Billy Horschel, Tony Finau, JT Poston, Seamus Power, Adam Hadwin, and Aaron Wise. First time we said Lucas Herbert, although he is generally a good scrambler. McCarthy, short game. Cameron Young, interesting. 3rd in distance, but also is able to scramble. That's a pretty good combination to have. Fitzpatrick, number 1. So a lot of this can be tied in with the putter as well, but it doesn't have to be. That's the thing. Like, we might want to go back and maybe take a look at strokes getting around the green, perhaps. Things of that nature. But there is a look at scramblers when there's long rough. Let's take a look at scramblers when it's long. And I think that'll do it probably for this page view in Fantasy National. So since the start of the calendar year, again, just to get enough rounds for guys, when a course is long, since the start of the calendar year, your top scramblers have been Matt Fitzpatrick, Lucas Herbert, Sepp Straka, Aaron Wise, Matt Kuchar, Mito, Sahith Theegala, Brendan Steele, Billy Horschel, and Christian Bezaidnout. So Lucas Herbert, Fitzpatrick was number 1 in both scrambling. Sepp Straka, very interesting to see here. Okay, there's scrambling. Hey P, how you doing? Don't worry about being late. In fact, it's probably a good thing you were late. You missed quite an intro, and not a good one. So if you want to have a good laugh at my expense, check that out after I sign off. But thanks as always for jumping in chat like you normally do. How was your St. Jude? Did you have Will Zalatoris? Did you have Sepp Straka? All that stuff. Did you play Colin Morikawa even though I was off on him? All that good stuff. Yeah. So there's your top scramblers when a course is long. I think that's going to do it for this view. Let's move on to proximity, and I do want to really, really focus on proximity. I had a collection of 5 of 6s, close to something nice. Well, I had like 3 or 4 6 of 6s. I was feeling pretty good about it, to be honest. I had Sung Jae in all of my 6 of 6s. What killed me was Xander. The lineups that I happened to get 6 of 6 through, I had Xander and he imploded on Saturday. I had 0 Sepp Straka. I had 0 Colin Morikawa. I said at the beginning of the week, or at least Wednesday night, if Brendan Steele struggled, if Scott Stallings struggled, if Morikawa played well, I was going to lose. I went 3 for 3 in that category. So it wasn't the greatest of weeks. I had some decent 5 of 6s, like you said, but nothing to counteract not having Morikawa, having 0 Straka. I had Zalatoris, but seemingly everybody did. But we're coming into proximity, and again, if you're just now joining, these greens are massive, 8,100 square feet on average. So greens aren't going to be a factor. Hitting greens in regulation, I should say. I want to see proximity. I want to see proximity. So, with no filters as of now, just flat out your top proximity players in the last 3 months. Those players are Lucas Glover, Shez Reavie, Brendan Steele, Shane Lowry, Aaron Wise, Sung Jae, Will Zalatoris, Tony Finau, Adam Scott, Russell Henley, and Mito. Okay, Lucas Glover, interesting to see, but he had a fantastic St. Jude, and his total procs was fantastic last week. He was good at the Wyndham in total procs. Rocket Mortgage in his 2 rounds. Like, it hasn't been the irons that have been keeping Lucas Glover back, and I think he just finally put a decent putting week together. As I thought. He's generally a pretty poor putter, so that has explained a lot with Lucas Glover. But everyone has good weeks with the putter, and he popped. So, P, since you're just now joining, I don't know if you've seen, Fleetwood has confirmed not playing. Cam Smith withdrew today. Granted, amid all the live rumors, think what you want about that. He cited a lingering hip issue for his withdrawal, so he is not in the field this week. I definitely wanted to look at total procs. Again, I don't think there's going to be a lot of 200 plus approaches, even though this course is long. Every par 5 seems to be a true 3-shot par 5, so not 200 plus approaches there. The par 4s, there are, I think, 2 that fall into the there's 3 that fall between 450 and 500. So maybe you get 200 pluses from them. Lingering hip issue equals pockets feeling a little light or heavy, if you will, dragging, if he is indeed going to live. However you want to conceptualize that. But with only 3 par 4s over 450 yards, none of them over 500, it seems like there's going to be a lack of 200 plus approaches. So I don't know if we're going to narrow down a range at all. Because even though this course is so long, you've got 6 par 4s that measure 400 to 450. You've got a couple that measure from 350 to 400. The length of this course comes in the par 3s and the par 5s. So I'm more focused on just total procs. We can take a look at total procs when it's long. Again, I don't know how much that's going to matter, but we'll look at it. Since there's limited amount of data and there's no data on Wilmington Country Club, we'll look at everything we can. So, in rounds that are long, your best total procs players are Corey Connors, Brendan Steele, Seabez, Bezadenhout, John Rahm, Victor Hovland, Tom Hoagie, Max Homa, Scotty Scheffler, Sam Burns, and Aaron Wise. Now, you're getting a lot fewer rounds in proximity when it's long, because one of those, actually a couple of them, are not getting put in there. Especially the Masters. You won't get proximity numbers from the Masters. And then some courses, like the Arnold Palmer, does not demand a 75 to 100. It is all in the 200 plus. That is what the API is known for. Valero, kind of the same. So But anyway, it's always, kind of decent to look at. I'm not going to put any emphasis in procs on long courses, just something to think about or look at. I'm going to bring this into the last 3 months. So again, I'm going to have a whole lot of emphasis on procs this week. Let's move to par 3s, 4s, and 5s, and then we'll call it an evening. The par 3s here, there is a shorter one, 170. Then you have a 205, a 206, and a 234. You're definitely going to want to look at the longer par 3s. Now the 205 and 206 could fall into this bucket here since they are 05 and 06. But I'm getting more of a feeling that it is going to be just par 3s. So in the past 3 months, your top par 3 performers, Xander, Cam Davis, Joo Hyun Kim, Tony Finau, Victor Hovland, Mito, Scotty Scheffler, Max Homa, Joaquin Niemann, and Luke List. If you're wanting to see players that are good at the two longer par 3 ranges, again, remember there's only 68 players, so like a 30th is essentially, barely top half. So I'm looking for top 10s or better. You've got Scotty Scheffler. We saw this last night. Very good at the long par 3s. Max Homa, very good at the long par 3s. Best in the field at the longest of long par 3s. Others here, that's really the only two that stand out in terms of top 10 in both. The others here, they're either, Denny McCarthy, 13th and 14th at the long par 3s. That's worth mentioning. Matt Fitzpatrick, 1st and 14th, so also worth mentioning. But really, that's about the only two that are, we'll say, top 15 in both. So some players like Xander are making his hay from here and not here, or vice versa. Maybe the 175 to 200 would be somewhat worth a look. I don't know how many times those par 3s will fall into that category or into this bucket, but I'm more focused on the par 3s. I might look at longer par 3s in my mixed condition model, but I'm going to be honest with you, the more I'm thinking about it, as of right now, it's just going to be par 3s. It's just going to be par 3s. But there's a look at your best par 3 performers. Par 4s. This is going to be the biggest part of my mixed condition model, like it was last week. And I don't think I was wrong, to be honest. I'll check par 4 efficiency. I really don't think I was wrong in focusing on the par 4s. I mean, every single player that finished the top 30 last week was positive in par 4s. It was just so very important at TPC Southwind. I see the same thing here this week. It's a par 71, so you got one less par 5. The par 4s are shorter. I just feel like it's going to be very, very important to play par 4 as well here. So the two biggest stats I can tell you right now are going to be total procs and par 4s, kind of like it was last week for the St. Jude. But anyway, in the last 3 months, your best performers on all par 4s, no matter the length: Tony Finau, Rory, Will Zalatoris, Matt Fitzpatrick, Xander, Wyndham Clark, Tyrrell Hatton, Jordan Spieth, JT Poston, and Cam Young. Interesting to see Wyndham Clark. But he's been playing pretty well, to be fair, lately. I mean, a clunker at the Open, but a made cut at the Open is still a made cut at the Open. But top 20, middling, and then top 10, top 30. Yeah. Yep. And also a pretty good putter. We're not on POA, but a decent putter in general. And he's very hot with the putter right now. Goodness gracious. 10.9 at the Canadian, which was on bent. Anyway, Tyrrell Hatton. So if we want to focus on the lengths here at Wilmington Country Club, it would be 400 to 450, although all three of these, I don't know why I can't get them to highlight, but it's these three ranges here. I really don't think, you might get a par 4 one of the longer par fours measuring to 500 a day or two, I'm thinking it's going to be mainly the 400, 450. So you got just a very quick 437, 413. That's not going to get close to 450 to 500. You have a 444 that could easily go in there. 430, 419, 446. So a lot of these par fours that are in this range really kind of hover in this bucket. So more than likely we're going to be looking at these two lengths here. So of the players that were very good in just total par fours and are very good at the two lengths, Tony Finau, first in total par fours, 8th and 2nd. 18th divided by 68. What's that? Maybe roughly top 25%. So maybe Rory gets considered 18th, but best in 450 to 500. Tyrrell Hatton, 11th and 6th. Obviously worth mentioning. But really, that's kind of it. Like Andrew Putnam here, good at the best at 400, 450, but atrocious from 450 to 500. I mean, you got some guys here that are decent. Again, remember, with only 68 players in the field, 27th is not your regular 27th in a full field. 27th divided by 68 is about 40%. So Fitzpatrick's say in the top 40%, roughly. 20th, 2 divided by 7, 28 something. So, yeah. So there's a look at the par fours. Highlighting the par fours, it's Tyrrell Hatton, it's Tony Finau, it's maybe Justin Thomas, maybe. But otherwise, some guys are just good in one length and not the other. Don't think we're going to put too much into 350, 400, even though there's a few there. So you think about, you got a 391 that could easily come into here. You've got a 393 easily could come into here. So there's only two on the scorecard that fall into this bucket. You got 2, 6, and 3. And then we talked about how 2 or 3 of these can easily go into here. You got a 444, a 446, perhaps the 437 comes into here. So these are the two lengths of par fours we're really going to be focusing on. I'm just going to put a whole lot of emphasis in total par fours. Par fives, and we'll call it an evening. So your best performers on total par fives: Rory, Sahith Theegala, Patrick Cantlay, Matt Fitzpatrick, Sam Burns, Scotty Scheffler, Tony Finau, Xander, Harold Varner III, Will Zalatoris, Max Homa, and Mito Pereira. So you got one par 5 that measures here. It's 582. Could come into here, but it's probably stuck there. You got 2 on the scorecard that measure here, 634 and 649. I don't think we're going to put a whole lot of emphasis in 650 plus, just because it would be one hole, maybe 2 or 3 of the days, but it's just one hole. And I don't know if I want to put specific interest into this length. This would be the length that I would concentrate on. I don't think I want to put specific length. I think I'm just going to do par 5s. But of the players that are very good in total par 5s, the ones that are also good in 600 to 650, it's Rory. I was going to say Cam Smith. He's withdrawn. Sam Burns, Xander, HV3, Homa, Mito. I mean, Mito's popped on quite a few metrics tonight. He was very good in opportunities. He was there in proximity, I think. He's here in par 5s. Mito might be somebody to look out for. Somebody to perhaps look out for. And then we covered putting just in the most general of terms. Generalist, is that a word? Yeah. What we can do, what I didn't do when we were looking at the, kind of overview or strokes gained view. Let's take a look quickly at strokes gained around the green in long rough. And I need to, we're just going to go to the last 3 months just to make it quick. So your top strokes gained around the green players in long rough: Siwoo, Tony Finau, Billy Horschel, Wyndham Clark, Matt Kuchar, Mackenzie Hughes, Adam Hadwin, Chris Kirk, Joo Hyun Kim, Brian Harmon, and Cameron Young. I skipped you that time, bastard. So yeah, there you go. I don't know how much I'm going to put in strokes gained around the green. I'm probably going to do some scrambling. I don't know how difficult this course is going to play. I would think it would lean to the difficult end, but I just don't know. We know that's fast Bermuda. We know it's going to be long rough. I don't know if fairways are going to be easy or difficult to hit, but I'm definitely going to put some focus into fairways. Something to think about. Just kind of keep in the back of your mind. There is a little bit of a difference in strategy when players know that it's a no-cut event. So they're going to be more apt to go for flags, knowing that a double bogey or triple bogey won't take them out of the tournament, and therefore, make them miss the cut. That's why I'm going to put a lot of emphasis on birdies gained. So that is a look at the field, the BMW field, this week at Wilmington Country Club. P, thanks for jumping in chat like you always do when you're able to catch the show. A reminder, I am on Twitch every day. Said it in the intro, but those who watched today, they got some analysis on my self-critique of the St. Jude data model. I even went into some DFS baseball today, since I had a free ticket given to me from DraftKings, so I did a little bit of DraftKings baseball. Had looked into some of the data here, so check me out on Twitch if you want to see some more of the content that I put out. It is a much more casual stream, casual show, but always available if you want to reach out to me. Social media, Discord, comment section. We'll always reply to any comments to a video. But thanks again for tuning in and watching and listening. I always appreciate the support for the channel and all the stuff that I do, content I put out. For all of the wagers that you made so far this week for the BMW, for all the wagers you're thinking about making this week at the BMW, until I see you Wednesday night for the DFS Tactics show, may all your bets be profitable.